The Mabandla Commission is continuing to hear testimonies from witnesses regarding the allegations made by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. EMPD Chief of Police Canny Maphanga is today continuing with his testimony. For more on the story now, we take you to SABC News anchor Ayanda Nyathi and reporter Canny Maphanga, who are at the Justice Mabandla College in Pretoria for us this hour. So, Ayanda, yesterday we heard lots to come out of the commission, and we heard how the suspended EMPD acting chief allegedly flouted processes. Let's hear more.
Absolutely, Mkolisi. It all feels like it's coming to a head, isn't it? Welcome back to the Mabandla College. We'll jump straight into our distilling of the information we have so far with our senior reporter, Canny Maphanga, who's also here. The inquiry is going to start in just about 10 minutes' time, but we have to begin by just reflecting on what we heard about the suspended Minister Senzo Mchunu's devices now supposedly being in the hands of law enforcement authorities. What else do we know about that?
Indeed. So we now know there's confirmation that the police minister who has been placed on a leave of absence, that is Senzo Mchunu, has officially handed over his electronic devices, and he's done so voluntarily. We know that it's at least 5 electronic devices that were taken. That is the state-issued laptop that he has, as well as a personal tablet, or we could call it an iPad, if you could put it that way. And there's 2 unused old cell phones that they also took that were found in his possession, as well as his 1 active phone that he currently uses, that he handed over to the authorities in that ongoing probe. That rounds up the picture of the number of people or people of interest that have been, I guess, raided and their devices have been taken. That includes the October raid of Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibia, where we know devices were taken, the raid of the home of the Chief of Staff, Cedric Ngambide, and we know he wasn't at the home, but some devices were taken from that particular home. Brown Mahotsi as well, there was a raid at his business premises, but we know that he wasn't there at the time. But we have gotten confirmation that he has since handed over his electronic devices. So that rounds up a number of the persons of interest in these allegations and the ongoing probes that is taking place surrounding the overall allegations of criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. So that's just part of the course. But with the police minister, the difficulty when they started those raids is that they couldn't get into the residence of the estate of the police minister. And now we're hearing a few weeks later that he has now voluntarily given over his devices to authorities.
And some of these individuals, Canny, had raised suspicions about the timing of all of this.
Indeed. When we attended the briefing of Cedric Ngambide, which we thought were going to be about the allegations that were being made about him in Parliament, but in fact it was to sound the alarm on the police that had visited his home and found his brother there and not him. And the allegation was that that this was about the investigations, yes, but the fact that the allegation that they were trying to make is that they may not have had evidence and they're only now gathering it now by getting their electronic devices. So that the allegation was that the allegations that Mkhwanazi made on the 6th of July were made without proof, and now they are seeking that confirmation through all these raids. We haven't heard Mkhwanazi respond to this yet, but we know General Masimala was that the raids were standard as part of the ongoing investigations into these probes.
And some people might be wondering why this is of interest to us here at the Mabandla College, where the Mabandla Commission is sitting. But of course, all these things are connected.
All of these issues are connected with respect to the allegations of criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. We have this probe that was commissioned by the President, and of course we'll come up with a report, but there's also work that needs to be done in the criminal justice system as far as the SABC to do their investigation so that some of these issues can be taken forward. So the raids that you are seeing are undertaken by the police themselves, and the process here is a transparent process in which you can learn the facts surrounding these allegations of criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. Of course, all of these names that we have mentioned have not yet had a chance to appear before the Commission because they'll appear during phase 2, which is the implicated persons. They'll get an opportunity to come and give their version of events. We're currently in phase 1, but we know the bulk of the allegations against them, so it comes as no surprise as a number of them are experiencing raids and devices are being taken as ongoing probes continue about these allegations allegations that center these alleged criminal cartels and their alleged infiltration into the criminal justice system.
Absolutely. And there are a number of processes that are unfolding. You and I have been at pains to explain that what's happening in Parliament is different but twin to what we're seeing taking place here. I just want to take a moment perhaps to take us back to part of what was said in Parliament yesterday insofar as the state capture related cases are concerned. We heard the news of Angelo Grizi, former Bosasa boss, reaching some kind of settlement with the state insofar as his corruption case is concerned. Andrea Johnson, who heads IDAC, that's the Investigating Directorate Against Corruption, was asked about essentially why they ultimately reached that agreement. She essentially explained that a lot was at stake given Angela Grizi's health status and what they were able to get from him under those circumstances. Take a listen.
In terms of what we can prove, Honourable Breitenbach, we could only prove the gratifications to him of 2.7 million rands. There is no other evidence. He pleaded guilty to 3 counts of corruption, 1 count of money laundering, a total of 40 years imprisonment, as well as paying back that which he was gratified to the asset forfeiture unit. In return, he gives us something we did not have, which is an answer I gave to the Honourable Malema. There was evidence we did not have. If we didn't get his 204s, I can tell you unequivocally so, it may not be a popular answer, but we would not be able to move on some of those matters that the Honourable Malema mentioned. It is unfortunate, but sometimes this is what you do for the greater good, or else some will walk and the perception that some are more equal than others would just have become real.
So there you have it, Andrea Johnson speaking in Parliament yesterday, essentially saying we had to get what we could get under these circumstances. This is important, of course, in the wake of yet another state capture-related cases making headlines, with Malusi Gigaba waiting, of course, for his case to get back on the roll. But to bring you back to the Bridget Mabandla Justice College, once again, we're expecting Isaac Mapiyeye, the EMPD police chief, to be back in the witness stand. And Canny, let's speak to you again. He's seated behind you. If you had eyes behind your head, you'd be able to see him. What are we likely to hear from him today?
Well, we expected him to round up on these allegations of criminality within the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department and the extent to which these alleged criminal cartels, particularly, namely, alleged cartel member that is Vusimuzi Kat Matlala and his private security company, benefited from these alleged irregularities. So we've heard about the agreement that wasn't lawful, according to Mapiyeye, with respect to crime combating operations that Mkhwanazi allegedly spearheaded in the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department. We've heard about how his authority was completely disregarded by Mkhwanazi and with the support of HODs in the department. And I'm sure we'll hear more evidence relating this alleged criminality and the extent to which the rot took place within the Metro Police Department, and as well against the backdrop of the fact that this particular unit actually doesn't have the powers to perform those crime combating operations and investigations as Mkhwanazi allegedly intended to do with the private security company of CAT. So the question is, to what end was this improper relationship being formed about? And I think that he's going to elaborate further on some of those details at 9:30 a.m. this morning. Yeah,
and we expected, I beg your pardon, what we had also heard is just how difficult it was for him to move insofar as any disciplinary action is concerned, given the fact that Mkhwanazi, it seems, wasn't working alone.
Indeed, he had the support clearly, allegedly, of the HOD of Legal, HOD of Human Resources, and you know you need those critical departments in order to spearhead those disciplinary processes. So you have a chief of police whose deputy seemingly created a parallel structure that was beyond his powers as the chief of police, so he couldn't intervene in some of the processes that they had started. And what you saw is now a situation where there's a parallel structure where decisions are being taken that should have been taken by the police chief. However, they were now being attributed to this deputy who had now gone far beyond his scope. And the question is why and to what benefit?
Absolutely. Common names coming up, Vusimuzi Kat Matlala being back in the mix. Canny Maphanga, for now, thanks very much indeed.